Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Welcome back to Countdown to College Radio with your host, Beth Pickett.
Thank you for joining me. When students apply to college, there are three crucial areas where the student needs to impress the admissions committees: their grades, their test scores, and their extracurricular activities. Well, high schools track the students' grades and send a transcript to the colleges. The SAT or ACT folks send test score reports. But what about tracking and reporting extracurricular activities? Our next guest is Chris Manley, author of the book Resumes for Children 17 Years Old and Under, and she has some great ideas for keeping track of students' accomplishments from an early age. Welcome to the show, Chris. Why do kids need resumes these days?
Well, hi, Beth. I want to say, first of all, thank you for having me. And I would say it really, number one, it boosts their self-esteem. A lot of children, and I had low self-esteem as a child. And when they see their little activities, their abilities and their talents written down on paper, that kind of helps them along and gives them some encouragement. And, I would say a resume, it appraises and it affirms a child's talents, gifts, and abilities because they're important to that child. So they're important to him or her or us as parents, grandparents, to document their activities. They are important to us. And I like this one that I'm about to tell you because it really shows that the student, the child, is more than his or her academic report card says that they are.
Yes, that's an important one, especially if we spend so much time talking just about grades and not acknowledging some of the things they do outside of school.
Exactly. It shows that they're not just one-dimensional. It's not all about the academics. It's about, their activities and what they have developed out of those specific activities. It's also a benefit for a student having a resume. You might see a career path developing. The years may pass, and you'll say, well, Susan has taken this particular workshop or course for a few years now. She's enjoying that. So a parent might see a career path develop. And I will say the last thing I'd like to bring up is it provides a backpack of skills. And when I say that, a backpack, I hike, and I take a backpack. Things that I put in my backpack, I enjoy. They nourish me. They're good for my growth and development. And I take them with me to sustain me on my trip. And I look at a student's resume or child's resume with that in mind. You would like to pack that student's resume with what they enjoy, activities and skills that will nurture them, help in their growth and their development, and those skills will sustain them through college, through life.
So this is documenting the things that they've done. It sounds like both internally for the family and the children themselves to acknowledge, hey, look at what I've done. I've got it written down in paper. I can actually see and track what I've been doing. And then also to use, we'll get into this a little bit later, but as part of the college application, you've tracked their activities and now you can have a good document to use to move the information from this resume that you've been keeping into the college applications.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's really good to be able to do that. I've had the pleasure of seeing right now two nephews into college, and we used the younger one's resume in the college application process. And it was real funny because after we had put it together, he got online, it was an online application, and they had a space, of course, where you type in your activities and whatnot, and then you can upload documents. And so he had the resume in Word, and I recommend it's good to use a Word document if you got it formatted a specified way. I would say make that resume, if you're going to upload it, use a PDF file or convert that resume to a PDF file so your formatting will not shift.
So it still looks nice.
Yes, so it will look nice and neat, and they can print it off along with their application when they do get it. Just word of advice on that end. Also, we gave my nephew's resumes to his counselors, to his teachers, so they'll know a little bit more about his interests and his gifts and his talents, and then they'll be able to write, I will say, a more effective recommendation letter for him. And just to tell you a little bit more about that, you want people who are qualified and not eligible to write a recommendation letter. So just for parents and students.
Qualified and not eligible.
Exactly. And I'll use this as an example. you know a friend of yours who you've known for 15, 20 years, or the teacher has gone through the student, been in his or her classes for, the 4 years through high school, and then you've only ended up with maybe 2 teachers that you've had during your 4 years. Well, the one who has had you for the whole 4 years knows your abilities, knows your skills, knows your scores, knows what you're capable of better than that teacher who's only had you twice in his or her class. Now, the teacher who's had your student twice in the class, he or she is eligible, but you want the ones that is qualified to give you an effective recommendation letter.
So the ones who are going to be most knowledgeable and able to talk about your students' gifts and abilities.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
You're exactly right. A lot of the high schools now have something called a brag packet, where they request information from the student about what have you been doing when you're not in school, so that they can work that into the letters of recommendation, and that's a perfect place for a student resume to go.
Exactly.
So what sort of information goes on a student resume?
I've got a list here. So, of course, the obvious, and then I'm going to have some things that are not so obvious. Employment, if any. Internships that the students have taken part in. Any kind of certifications. Believe it or not, some students are CPR certified. I know one gentleman, he's 17 now, 2 years ago. He had obtained his junior open water diver certificate, believe it or not.
So he was a scuba diver.
He was a scuba diver, so he received a certification. Of course, any volunteer activities, any computer skills if your student is proficient in Microsoft Word, PowerPoint Access, or even CAD, CAD, which is computer-aided drafting. Any awards that the student may have
and
obtained.
There's a whole section for that in the college applications that the students are going to have to list what awards or honors they've listed. So, okay.
Yes, exactly. Or what I call noteworthy mentions. If you had something that was really spectacular and it was mentioned in a newspaper, an article, so that can be listed. If the student is a published author, whether it's being in print or online, published artist in print or online, any workshops, or if he or she has or speaks or reads, writes, or speaks a second language, I think that definitely is important in our in our society today. If they're part of any clubs or organizations, if they have a small business, let's not forget about that. And any special skills. I've got another nephew who knows American Sign Language and reads lips. So, and I can go on. I had some more, but that's a start.
That's a great start. So a resume can be tailored to every individual's needs, though. If there's a student, for example, who has 5 of those areas but doesn't have anything in second language or volunteer activities, you just don't list that on the resume, correct?
Exactly.
Because there's no one format that everyone has to fill out, and so the blanks you just don't include them.
Exactly. And you format that resume the way you want it formatted. It doesn't have to be formatted as, like I say, we adults would format it, a lot of professional resume format. Of course, you put what you want to put on there, what you need to put on there.
Name, contact information, email address.
Email address, exactly. And say if you're, and I saw this one resume which I was really impressed. Speaking of format, this young lady wanted to go to the college called SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia. And she was a graphic artist, and her resume was fabulous. It had graphics on there.
So she was using her resume as a way to show her design talents.
Yes, she was. So I say, with our society, with different fields of interest and occupational interests, you can format your resume, not to make it, too gaudy or anything like that, but the format does not have to be that rough, rigid format as I was coming up. It had to look a certain way or whatever. So I encourage students to use their imaginations when it comes to formatting their resumes.
Now, this is something that they can start tracking pretty early in life. I know that for the college applications, they want to see what students have been doing basically from the summer before 9th grade on through. But you're recommending that students start even earlier.
Believe it or not, yeah, my another little nephew, I've got a lot of nephews in my family, he was 6 when we started his resume. And
what do you put on a 6-year-old's resume?
I was about to tell you. I have his resume right here in front of me. His volunteer activities. He also took, as young as he was, a home safety class for kids. how to call 911, what to say to strangers or what not to say to strangers, what to do in fire or floods in the house. We put his little, of course he didn't have an email address, but we did put, the address on there, and we put parents' phone number. He did speak a second language, and he was in karate class.
So at this age, for the 6-year-olds, those resumes are really, for them, an acknowledgement of accomplishments and some motivation to have them continue achieving, to add things to the resume. This is not a resume that's going to go out anywhere.
No, it's not. Again, it's a motivational builder. It's a self-esteem builder for that child, especially being so young. But still, it boosts their self-esteem just for them to see the little gifts and talents and abilities down on paper, even that young. And I will say this, you heard of out of sight, out of mind?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't recommend, I say there's really no set age for students to begin keeping track of their activities, but I recommend not waiting until the teenage years. You don't want to lose or forget activities that you're done in your younger years. What you're looking for mainly, you're looking for not, the activities, but the skills in which you've developed within those activities is what you want to capture.
I think that's fabulous. Chris Manley, author of the book Resumes for Children, 17 years old and under. Thank you very much for taking the time today to be on Countdown to College Radio.
Thank you for having me.
If you would like more information, you can visit Chris's website at www.resumesforchildren.com. You can also find a link to that website from the resources section of this show's website at countdowntocollegeradio.com. Coming up, if you know a high school or college student interested in a career that involves anything oceanic or aquatic, you need to hear about an experience-based, year-long adventure called the Rolex Arworld Underwater Scholarship. I'm Beth Pickett on